Started with our meeting. We can stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So obviously you can see I'm here by myself today. I don't have the previous meeting minutes that are out there for us to review. However, in September, we will make sure we get March and June's meeting out there for us to review. If you're concerned, the meeting video link is up on the website for you to review if you have any questions or concerns from there. I'm going to steal some of Rob's thunder as we move into the chairman's report. Real quick mention from the program agency standpoint, Rob will touch on it a little bit more from his standpoint, but Mike Shaw is no longer with UBMD, took a position with Tennessee, took a position with Wyoming County. So as of right now, I specify as of right now, until Rob makes notifications that they found a replacement, please reach out to Rob for all the concerns or needs from the program agency that you need from him. Just be patient, he's one man, and he does deserve some time off here and there. So if he doesn't get back to you, he'll get back to you, but contact him with any concerns or things that you need going forward. CMAX REMSCO, we met in May. For once, it was a relatively mundane meeting. It wasn't really that long. Rodney made the trek out there to come see, and he left a little bit early because there really wasn't a lot on the agenda for a lot of people to see. Now, if he would have been there in February, we would have saw some fireworks and some other fun for a 5-hour meeting. So next meeting, September 18th, September 17th and 18th, and Saratoga Springs. We're normally in Troy, but this meeting is moved to Saratoga Springs. So anybody interested, I would encourage you to try to get in the rooms out there because they've been filling up relatively quickly. Next topic, and Scott Buffin sent me an email about this yesterday after I sent the agenda out. I forgot to add it on there because it's kind of been out of sight, out of mind. Back in March, we talked about potential realignment and what it might mean and what it might look like. And we said at the time that we were waiting for more information. We were going to try to schedule a couple of meetings. Some time elapsed. I think the director was off doing some other things as far as trying to sell part via the budget. And the time that has elapsed, he's kind of changed his tune. And as of right now, I don't see us undergoing any sort of alignment or realignment for this year. Definitely won't happen this year, and probably for next year. I don't know what the other years happen might look like or might change that, but as of right now, I would consider that option dead. And Rob, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and until I think in talking to the other council, I think until there's really a substantial reason as to why and how it would benefit you all, I don't think it's gonna ever happen unless the state finally forces anybody.
So, you know, obviously, I will try to have a discussion with him to see what his rationale or reason was for making that realignment request or proposition, and make sure we bring it back to you guys so we can all kind of be informed and we can make a decision whether or not we want to do it or not. Grants Gateway, we continue to work on that. It's very slow and tedious and painful. Sometimes I want to gouge my eyes out, but it's where we're at. Regulatory changes. Good news. The education regs finally passed. They passed in the REMSCO in May. Some of you, I don't know if you guys had a chance to see, I sent out a compressed version and then the full register for review of those changes that are going to go out there. They said usually 4 to 6 weeks, so probably at some point in the middle of July, we'll get notification that they're actually active and in full force. It's the first regulatory change related to EMS in over 20 years. So it was long and painful and tedious. The good news is now that the current Bureau staff has a template of how to kind of proceed going forward, learning, you know, best business practices, the do's and the don'ts. So it will help kind of speed them up going forward. The equipment changes, those will hopefully come out for public comment between now and September. We're hoping in July. I can't make any guarantees. And speaking with the director in end of May, the Bureau has asked some questions about that, which means they're starting to come with some movement as to whether or not they will start to hit public comment. Again, once they come out, I will make sure that I will send you guys all the information and the link of where to make a public comment. We ask that whether you like them, you don't like them, you're indifferent, just make your opinion or voice heard. If you have questions, you know, that's the time to ask a question of what stuff looks like. It's kind of hard because we're already starting to talk about the next equipment changes when we haven't had the first equipment changes take place, which is kind of awkward and unusual. But the public comment period is important. If it's out there, the more comments they get that you're in favor of it, easier it is for them to kind of progress and move forward. So some form of public comment would be welcome. With the education regs, there is very minimal comment on it. Most of them were indifferent. So. EMS legislation, all the fun stuff. All right. So everyone knows that the governor's budget passed and it was late, which is part of the course. With that, Part B came out of it. So anything that was related to EMS was just stricken from that, which put a lot of the work onto the legislators and all the trade associations that work to get stuff passed. So I sent out an email. There are 3 key pieces of the EMS legislation that passed. The first one is called tip and tad, so treat in place and transport to alternative destinations. Some people think this is, I mean, just like kind of direct pay that was passed last year that the governor signed that will take effect January 1st of 2025 as it relates to fair health rates. This tip and tad relates only to Medicaid payments. So if you treat and place a Medicaid patient, you will get paid for it. If you transport to alternative destination, Medicaid will pay for it. If you have any other government insurance, if it's Medicare, if it's private, if it's non-insurance, you will not be paid for treat and place or transport to alternative destination if it's not in your contract. And I'm sure most agencies don't have contracts with insurance providers. So tip and tad just relates to Medicaid payments. It is on the governor's desk for her to sign, just like anything. The legislators pass it, the House, the Senate and Assembly passes it, and then lobbyists still get to work with the governor to sign it or not sign it. I don't have any reason to believe that the governor won't sign this. However, it will be at her leisure than when she signs it. Once it is signed, the Department of Health is then required to seek CMS approval via state plan amendment to the Medicaid program. So what does this mean? This just means that there's more time involved before this will actually go into place because other things have to happen after the governor signs it. So I don't know when it will happen. Hopefully we'll get notifications shortly that the governor signed it so that the Department of Health can work on the state plan amendment to petition CMS to make those changes. And then we'll actually have an official date where Medicaid will actually start to pay for this. The other key piece of legislation is that ground ambulances were legislated to carry and transport blood products. So what does this mean? This means that any ambulance can carry blood and transport blood outside of an agreement that they needed to have with Wadsworth and stuff like that. There is some work in the background with STAC and also the RTAC to have a plan in place. It will come as no surprise that each region has different thoughts and different uses for blood and what type of blood that they use. I'm sure Mercy Flight has seen that in different areas where they transport into and out of. If they are transporting that on the air side, air already had it. So hopefully we will get some guidance on best practices and things that will make it easier on the ground. So we'll keep you guys updated for that. And then lastly, there was a bill to allow real property tax exemption for volunteers who live in a different municipality than those that they serve. That passed both houses. It will go to the governor for her to sign. And I don't know what that will look like, but for those of you that get that, that's a good piece of EMS legislation. EMS as an essential service bill was in play to the last day. But ultimately did not pass. There are a couple different versions of it out there. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if what if EMS will end up in the governor's budget again. We've been in there for 3 straight years. But each year you can notice it moves further and further down the alphabet, so we'll see what happens. Some other pieces of EMS legislation for us to keep an eye on are the essential service S.4020, the mayor bill, and it's assembly.3392. Basically, it's a comprehensive legislative package that passed the Senate, but not the Assembly. It would expand the definition of EMS, recognize EMS as an essential service, allow special taxing districts to be created to fund EMS services, and give new responsibilities to the New York State Emergency Medical Services Council. That one is the bill to kind of keep an eye on for everybody. The income tax credit, S.7286 and A.7524, Part CC S.8309-A. It's legislation increase the volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers personnel income tax credit from $200 to $800 for eligible individuals, and from $400 to $1,600 for eligible married joint filers. Income tax credit and property tax exemption S.6630 and A.6274. This legislation allows volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers to claim both state income tax credit and local property tax exemption. And then lastly, for those of you that are travel the thruway, this is a thruway permit for EMS vehicles S.6645 and A.6135. This legislation requires a thruway authority to issue service permits to EMS vehicles, as is already done for fire vehicles, which would exempt EMS from being required to pay tolls while transporting patients on the New York State Thruway. So what does that mean? That generally means that anytime you go up on the thruway, you're transporting a patient, you have to pay this toll. However, if you're on an emergency run, you can petition the New York State Thruway Authority and they can rescind the toll and they will pay you back at some point.
Which costs more money than.
Usually, so a lot of people don't do that, or you just get the easy pass and if you're just traveling normal traffic. So, and then lastly, there's positive momentum advocacy from trade associations to increase Medicaid ambulance payments to be at least equal to what is paid by the federal Medicare program, and to expand and make permanent the community paramedicine demonstration program. Ultimately, the goal that is not just in New York, but around the state, around the country, that there's been good advocacy with and good support, is moving Medicaid payments to match the federal Medicare and bring it up to standard and to par there. So a lot of states have taken advantage of that, moved towards that. Hopefully New York will be one of them in the future. Any questions on EMS legislation? Right. Training and ed, new education regs passed. Obviously, we talked about that. In 2023, there were around 10,000 exams processed by PSI for certifications. The CC Bridge program, for those of you that have been under a rock, the CC program or CC certification is set to sunset in 2027. There seems to be one person in New York State that wants to fight about that, where he has 1.5 CCs, and they take like, how many calls do they take a year? Very few, but they have a lot of money, and he just likes to argue, it seems. He has 2 CCs on his roster. One of them is pregnant and in nursing school, and doesn't feel that she should have to take the bridge program, even though she can become a nurse and then try to take the paramedic exam, challenge the paramedic exam. So, and the other one is like 73. So I don't know if they're going to continue to be in.
That's just the young man.
Yes. But since the information for the sunset date for CCs took effect or was mentioned, the bridge program has seen a drastic increase. There are currently 63 students enrolled statewide. They've seen an increased enrollment for the next cohort that will start in October. And Northwell has said if they continue to see numbers increase, that they may add a second cohort to the year as well. So all positive things moving forward. 2 new education policies went out. I attached those to the agenda. First one is course requirements for hazmat response education, 24-03. And then 24-04, which is instructor CIC update, correct? If you have any questions, feel free to reach out for us. Collaborative protocols, they are quickly approaching. They passed in February REMSCO meeting. Rollout is July 1st. The good news is that there isn't any formalized education that you have to take because they're relatively mundane. I did send out the links for the changes on the protocol change log that New York State has. If anyone is not familiar with that, any changes that come out now going forward for the protocols will happen once a year. It will generally be July 1st, I believe. So, something's voted on in September. We'll have plenty of time to get the change in there, work with education to make sure it doesn't have any drastic training and ed requirements. And then July 1st, all those protocol changes will take effect. The state is doing a better job because the collaborative protocol group has used a tracker now to create a change log tracker that gets posted as a policy. And if you're not familiar, it's on the New York State BEMS policy and advisory website. You can click the link and any policies will show up there. Performance standards, they still continue to move through the process. They need to now move to the writing phase and the implementation phase, because just like anything, we're tasked to do something. Now they have to meet legal document and what it needs to look like from there. The two performance standards that we discussed previously are the ones that are still going to be moving forward. However, we still continue to talk about the other performance standards as they're just as important, but they're a little bit on the back burner now. And we'll see what happens with these two and how quickly we can move forward with that. NEMSIS transition to 3.5 has to happen by 7/1. Do you want to talk about this now, or you want to talk about it under your report?
The only thing that I was actually gonna bring up on my report was, the protocols coming out July 1st. If you use Muru, some of the Apple users may need to force the update. So if you log into Muru because you have an Apple or an iPhone and they look like old protocols, then go back to the menu and look for an update. That's been problematic. But Muru should be updating those by then. Notice that 3.5 transition needs to be done by June 30th. I think most everybody in here uses third-party software, so if you haven't been notified or you don't know what's going on, you might want to reach out to your software company. For those that use the state site, it should occur automatically. In fact, I believe most of the agencies have been transitioned over already, so if there's any questions, just get in touch with me. And then the last thing is credentialing. Credentialing is coming up June 30th, so please submit your membership report so that you're not considered delinquent. That's really all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions on the NEMSIS transition to 3.5 for Rob? Systems committee update. There was a draft document that was shared at the REMSCO meeting that I shared with all of you, that talks about the definition of need. It's very simple and plain, but that's more than the current definition that we have now. It's a draft document, so any thoughts that you have on it, please let me know. I can take it back to the committee. We're actually having a meeting on July 9th to discuss it. As of right now, that definition is only for emergency. So basically 911 need, it's not for interfacility or any other sort of need right now. There is talk that they plan, or the plan will be to create different forms of definitions for different CONs. So if you're looking to do a municipal CON, there will be a different definition. If it's 911, there'll be a different definition. That will take, or if we'll ever get there, but that's kind of the plan or goal behind that as we speak. From an operations standpoint, full service inspections are continuing at the bureau level. And if you're not aware, the bureau has moved everything to an electronic renewal. You will get it roughly sometime 90 to 120 days prior to your expiration. They'll send you the packet, make sure all your contact information is good. You'll start to prepare that, and then you'll just follow the instructions on there. At Twin City, we just got ours because ours is up in October. So they will come out and then just go through everything, and then you have to submit it back to the portal prior to them arriving, and then they'll come out and do their inspection. So just kind of keep that in mind. Cleanliness is still a topic. Some of the stuff that I can't believe people actually think is appropriate, as far as expiration dates and people, checking expiration dates and just cleanliness. The agency that was in the central New York region that had probably like 2 inches of caked mud on the floor of their ambulance. So just, maybe throw a mop in there before they come out, what it looks like in the other 2 years. If they're not there, who cares? But if they're coming out to inspect you, they're auditors, their goal is to find something, right? So they'll find something. I hope everyone had a chance to see the email I sent out about OSHA changes. The OSHA, that will put basically another financial burden on agencies that already struggle. My best guess is that it will probably be ratified at some point and move into regulation, because I know this wasn't done in a vacuum. They work closely with the NFPA and the other fire protection agency to kind of see their thoughts. And obviously fire is a lot more advanced and had more requirements than we did. So it was a relatively easy fix for them, or small changes for them, than what it is for EMS. However, there is growing movement now from some of the state senators. I know Senator Ort was one of them who is looking to get the word out to oppose it because of the undue financial mandate that will create for certain agencies. Some of the big changes that you'll see, and I think they're probably appropriate. It's just there probably needs to be a ramp up period to where people can kind of move into these changes. It's probably important that we have annual physicals done on your providers, right? From a fire side, it already happens. So that's an easy change for them, or should happen, I should say.
I don't agree with that. It hasn't done much to reduce the death rate. And without a good reason to do it, it sounds good, but we're still losing the same number of people that we have for years. And as we reduce the size of the people responding, it puts more and more work onto the ones that are coming out. So that where you used to have 15, 20, 30 people show up, now we're getting 5 and 10. And you're expecting those 5 and 10 to do the work that 25 or 30 used to do. And all that extra work is not good. And maybe what we should be doing is a logic and risk management deal, where you think about things a little sooner, a little harder beforehand, before you get too involved in the call. So I'm not a big fan of the physicals.
I think the idea behind the physicals is not, you're not always going to stop death rate, because there are other factors that come into play there. But what it does is it brings awareness to potential underlying issues that can lay dormant, or that somebody doesn't know about. Because let's be honest, when you're 18, how many of you went to the doctor every year? Nobody did, right? I know I didn't.
What is the number one, the highest percentage of deaths in the country? It is a convenience store work on a night shift. That is where the most deaths are percentage wise in the country. Number one reason, homicide. We're gonna lose the same number of people, because there's what, 1.5 million of us, 2 million of us firefighters nationwide. And we're losing between 100 and 300 a year.
Sure. I mean, me personally, I think the physicals are good, but that's not something we're gonna be able to necessarily fight. I mean, I mean, there's public comment periods, so
Yeah.
I would encourage you to
I am,
submit your comments to there.
I'm real shy and bashful, but I will.
Some of the other changes as far as the OSHA, regulatory changes are, physical agility test. For your agency, and the difficult part is that each agency is gonna be responsible to create their own physical agility test, and you're gonna have to do that annually as well as some other changes, so just kind of continue to watch that, if anything changes, I will let everybody know. But the current public comment period, was supposed to close yesterday, or today, but however, they moved it to July 22nd, it's the second move that they've had, so, there's some things that are happening in the background. That they didn't think would happen before. They thought that this was pretty much a slam dunk, that this will happen at some point, but I don't know what changed. This will come as no shock, but there are probably political motivators behind that because of who's in charge of the country and who's in charge of the Senate and the House. So, you know, once the election happens, who knows what it will look like? It might fully go away. I don't know. But just something to kind of keep your eye on. Also, did everyone get the email that I sent about the HIPAA changes that took effect yesterday? As it relates to interactions and giving information to law enforcement, otherwise known as administrative actions. I'm not the one to tell you how to act. I'm just merely giving you the information and making you informed of the changes that have taken place. Now, keep in mind, just like with anything, there is a grace period. So if something happens and information is incidentally disclosed that you're not supposed to, there is no penalty that comes along with it. It will just be a reminder that in the future, you can't do this, right? Previously, law enforcement was able to send you a request on departmental letterhead to say, we're requesting this information, and then you could send it. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. They're becoming a little bit more strict and almost requiring a subpoena for that medical record to be submitted, right? Now, the question is, what should providers do on scene when interacting with law enforcement, right? And I think it's just like anything, less is always more. But that's gonna be an agency specific, whatever your compliance officer feels is best. Obviously, you can tell patient condition, you can tell where the patient is going to the hospital. And I'm pretty sure you could probably at least give their name and some demographics, right? But as far as other release of other extent of injuries or past medical history, I would be hesitant to do that, right? You can talk about the extent of injuries that they may have at that time, condition, and what hospital they're going to and how you plan to travel. What they do, what law enforcement does after that will be up to them. So, you know, most EMS providers have a good relationship with law enforcement and vice versa, which is something for the administrative side. If you get a request for information, especially a PCR, that more than likely a subpoena is going to be needed going forward. So that's something that's very real and alive now. So just make sure everyone's aware of that. We had our awards dinner in April. Thanks to all those attended. We'd like to congratulate our award winners. They are BLS Provider of the Year, Wesley Rewalt, ALS Provider, Fred Olson, EMS Agency of the Year, Rapids, Youth Provider of the Year, Emma Starowitz, EMS Educator of the Year, Ray Hubert, EMS Communication Specialist of the Year, and I always butcher this last name, but it's Kyle Tanakton. Tackentine, shit, I do that all the time. And then lastly, our very own Tom Eggert was awarded the Harriet C. Weber EMS Leadership Award. So round of applause for all our award winners. Thank you all for participating. We appreciate it. Also, all of those will be submitted to the state. Rob reminds me every week that the deadline is quickly approaching. I'm sure he's going to remind me after we leave here. I will get them submitted before July 1st. Vital signs is October 24. The housing is it, that link still, is it's open now, right? But it's not.
The housing is open, but the registration link has not been open yet.
Okay, so if you're interested in going, the housing link's open, you can get your room at least. And it's in Rochester, so it's a little bit closer than Troy or Saratoga or wherever it was previously, Syracuse. The EMS Memorial was scheduled for May. It was postponed and moved to September 19th. There are 8 honorees going up on the wall, or the, what's the word I want to use here? The tree. Well, they renovated the tree, so I don't know what the tree will look like. This is gonna be an unveiling, so, that will be, September 19th, if anyone is interested in going. Treasury report, we continue to work on that. Rob, do you have anything else under UBMD?
Nope.
Committee reports. Unfortunately, Sarah, because Rob is here, Rob had a class and Rob has to be here to help make this easy.
She had a class I couldn't cover.
Oh, that's right. Because Rob had to be here, so he had to make Sarah teach her own class. The education committee continues to meet. They have another Zoom meeting starting on July 9th. If you need anything from the education side, please reach out to Sarah. Bylaws, nothing new from Dave. Finance, nothing new from Cora. CON, Rick unfortunately was not able to make it the last minute. However, everyone sees Chief Luca here from City of Lockport. City of Lockport is filing for conversion from their MuniCon to a full-fledged CON for the City of Lockport. We, as the CON committee, will be given that as soon as the city provides a check. But we are in receipt of that. I will get everything scanned over, and once we get everything, we'll start the ball rolling. So, depending on when they get us a check, we may have to come back sooner, because we usually try to take a break in the summer. But Chief had other plans for us this year, which is not a big deal. So, if we have to meet prior to that to vote on it, we will do that. Also, we will have to have a public hearing at some point as well to go over that. So more than likely, we'll probably, it will be held in the City of Lockport, because that's where the conversion is gonna take place. I'm sure we'll probably be able to do it right at One Locks Plaza. I would hope. Chief's gonna buy us all dinner. Good.
That money's along with the fee for
Just gonna put that in the budget. And then I just want to thank Sarah and Cora for putting the awards dinner together this year. They did a fantastic job, so thank you to them. Is Lisa on there?
Somebody is.
Can you ask them if they have any report from the Department of Health?
Hi, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I don't really have much for the group. I will touch on, you were mentioning full service inspections and renewals earlier, Andy. Just please make sure that your contact information for your agency is up to date with us. That is your responsibility as the agency. So whatever we have on file is who we try to contact when your stuff is up. So if leadership changes or the email changes, you have to let us know, and you can do that through the portal. That's all I have.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything for Lisa? Medical Director report. Dr. Seth, do you have anything for the group?
nothing more than what you already covered.
All right. Any headway on getting vetted?
I think I did hear something more after they asked me what my race was.
Okay.
They asked me some other random question. I didn't know the tax stuff you asked about.
Okay.
So I sent that and then radio silence.
So you're probably about 9 months away. So we'll try to get that.
Yeah.
sped up.
I'll let you know.
And we joke about this, at the May CMAC meeting, there was a question of quorum because at the last minute, one of the docs had an emergency that she was not able to attend. However, from what was available and who was there, the state was not able to actually properly count what constitutes a quorum. I think there was 11 there, and there's 20 that are on the CMAC. So you need a majority, which is you need 11, and we had 11 there. However, there were like 5 docs that are waiting to get vetted, and have been waiting to get vetted for the last year and a half. So it was a great opportunity for all of us to kind of take a little quick shot to say, well, if we could speed up the vetting process, this probably wouldn't be a problem. And then when you ask the question like, well, what's the vetting process? it's very secretive, so nobody really knows what the vetting process is, so. Hopefully we will get him vetted and on sooner rather than later, so we won't have those issues. Catholic Health, Emily or Rob?
For those of you who have waited till the very last minute to get your REMAX skills done, we are hosting a REMAX skills tomorrow night at our community at 6 p.m. And then on July 18th at 7 p.m. here at the training tower, we'll have a cardiac sim CME as well. As always, we just ask that you pre-register so that we have enough food. As of July 1st, as a requirement of the REMAC, all of our med direction lines, that all our Catholic Health EDs will be recorded, so please keep that in mind when you're calling. So watch what you say. And for those of you who have not heard yet, we have very exciting news. We were given permission to transition the old ORs at Mount St. Mary's into a full simulation lab. So that will be open to all EMS providers. And agencies can get a hold of us and set up their drills or any training time that they might want there, but that'll be a full sim lab and it'll be the only hospital-based sim lab in Western New York.
Excellent. Does anybody have anything for Emily or Rob? First, Emily, how'd you win? How did you did you just start talking before Rob did?
I took notes and he started to write down and I was like, oh, I have it. And then he was like, I'm not prepared to do it.
Rob, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Old business. Obviously, we already discussed sunsetting of CCs. Does anybody have any questions regarding that? Any concerns, any thoughts as to what the plan or process should be? There was some opposition from some other areas in the state. However, after coming to the people to ask, after a couple of the areas coming to the department and being in contact with a couple of the REMSCO members, better understood the plan and the rationale and reason for that. And actually put a plan in and were able to find additional money to pay for the bridge program for certain providers. You know, John, do you want to talk a little bit about what Niagara County has done as far as the bridge program for CC?
I think we're at $16,000 they took offered to any volunteer firefighter that want to take the bridge class at the CC and basically paying the cost for it. They're gonna probably do it one more time this fall for the actual bridge.
Excellent. So anybody pass that back to your agencies in Niagara County, if you have CCs that are interested in the bridge program. I know the state had talked about taking some additional money left over in education to fund some of the transition for those employees, for those CCs. Ultimately, it's not the certification itself. The education for CCs has not been updated in 25 years. Obviously, we all know that the protocols have undergone some drastic changes in the last 5 years. And the CCs are still operating under the same education rubric that they had 20 years ago. This was a topic of discussion in the middle 2000s, middle to 2013 and 14, when they talked about putting a date under the old director, I think, just to kind of squash people's fears and kind of just shut the conversation down, said it was going to happen. When they stopped new CC courses, that was in 2014, 2015,
17.
no, so 2017 when that happened. But I think because there was poor record keeping from some of the discussions that happened there, this was kind of lost. I think the plan was always to sunset them within 10 years, which is what the plan kind of reinvigorated. And as we move forward, so it's not a slight to the certification itself. It's just that the education requirement has not been updated in over 20 years, and there's no sense doing that because there's no new original courses. So the idea is just trying to have them either transition to become a paramedic or slide down to an AMT, which they don't do anything on July 1st of 2027. They will be credentialed as a AMT for the rest of the recertification timeframe, and then they can do a recert as an AMT. They don't have to take any new courses for AMT, correct?
Just
Lastly, under old business, with Mike and I started the regional spotlight campaign. That will still continue with Rob. So no concerns there. So obviously, if anybody has any outstanding calls, please let us know. Does anybody have any outstanding calls they'd like to recognize here? And that way, if you could shoot me an email, we can make sure we get them recognized.
They're not gonna be fired for their call they had a couple weeks ago.
Okay, what happened?
We had a 3-year-old, we got called at 2:15 in the morning. For a 3-year-old that was having trouble breathing. Our arrival, the 3-year-old quit breathing. The dispatcher, actually, the jail gave pre-arrival instructions. We're beating feet, the paramedics got, rescue paramedics got there. We got there right behind them. They attempted an IO, the kid screamed. And it held a big blood clot. She had, tonsillectomy and out, and, state troopers came, asked me if, I needed anything from them, do I want them to set up the landing zone? I had forgotten for a few minutes that they have helicopters. And they were perfect, when they asked me, I had them set up the landing zone, they didn't like the location I selected because I had weakness high. And selected a better location, helicopter came, we flew the child to Strong. The Monday night, we had a get together with the family to and the family to thank the paramedics and the crews that were there. Very emotional time. They had lost another child earlier. I don't know the reason behind that. They had 2-year-old twins. It went as well as anybody could expect. So we were really happy with that. There's a write-up and we had news media there and so forth, so there's,
Can you send me the link for the article?
I'll send you the article, I've got it on my computer at home.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll make sure we get it out from our standpoint as well.
for some reason I didn't recover till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sure.
I'm not 27 anymore.
I know I took the initial call for that in Orleans County, transferred it, and I was right on the line, you know, trying to listen the whole time, trying to.
Sure.
They did a great job.
Good. Good. Does anybody have anything else? New business, does anything, I do have a couple of things under new business. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to discuss under new business? All right. We're required, to, anytime there's an enforcement notification, we're required to read off the name to the public record. I will just read the name. There's some have multiple violations. We just have to read the name, I think, just to say it's in there. If anybody's concerned, I can send them the enforcement action if they're that concerned, but there's actually one that's actually from our area. One of them is Laura Manistrantenuto, Brent Taylor. This one might sound familiar, Nicholas Shepherd, Cody Mining, and Brent Allspack. All of them have either surrendered their card or have been suspended for a period of time. So if anyone would like those, just let me know, I can send them to you. But unfortunately, I have to read the names aloud. I just prefer to email them out, but we're supposed to read them all out, so. That is that. Does anybody have anything else they would like to discuss for the meeting? Our next meeting will be September 25th at 1900 hours in Genesee County at the Emergency Management Building there. We are off for the summer as much as we can be. In saying that, if we have to make any changes or have any impromptu meetings, I will make sure that I will get that information out as quickly as possible. To make sure that we're meeting all applicable timelines and deadlines. I hope everyone has a wonderful summer. Enjoy the time with your family and friends, recharge. For those of you that like heat, I enjoy the heat, so it's been nice the last little week. It's nice that it's a little cooler out now, but we can go back to being 85 because Rodney's wearing a sweatshirt and it's June 26th and that's not appropriate. But hope everyone enjoys their summer, stay safe. We'll see you all in September, if not sooner. Can I take a motion for adjournment?
Before you do, the only thing I got real quick is I got a copy of the minutes up here. Take a copy on your way home. We can vote on it at the next meeting.
And they're changing the name of the Office of Emergency Management Services to Office of Emergency Management. That's what it is.
Okay.
They didn't tell us that each way, but it was in the next day.
Everyone have a great summer meeting.